Hey friends, David Miller, Phoenix, Arizona, multimedia artist, photographer, educator. I want to talk to you today about stereo cameras. These are stereo cameras, old ones, not modern ones. I got them at Bookman's in Mesa and Zia in Phoenix. Zia and Bookman's are stores that sell secondhand stuff, so got them for a pretty cheap price each. I think this one was roughly in the neighborhood of 30 bucks. It's a Kodak Stereo Camera. It's super heavy and metal. And guess what? I'm not going to talk too much about this one because the few times I've stuck some film in it, the film got shredded. This thing is probably in need of a good oil canning, and if I get it to a professional camera cleaner to kind of make it roadworthy, I might do a camera quest on this one in the future. But for now, I'm going to stick to this one. This is by Loreo, a company I've never ever heard of, and it is plastic. It has mirrors on the side, and the reason for that and the reason for these two lenses here is because stereo cameras take two shots at the same time on a single piece of film. They have a little bit of a separation between where the images come into the camera. So this one has separate lenses and this one operates with those twin mirrors. And the idea is you would get an image that you could create a stereo card of, put it in a stereo card viewer, and then it's early proto 3D kind of stuff. Prior to TVs, I have heard over and over, this is what people used to do for fun. They get their stereo cards out and have a party, look at things on 3D on these wooden devices. I've used them myself. They're really cool. Don't own one, but possibly by the end of this video, I have one and we make our own stereo card out of work that comes out of this. Now this camera, I've had it for over a year now, and I shot my first film with it with a local model named Kaylee, then with my friend Alina in LA, and then I went a really long time without even thinking or touching this because when I was in LA, I left it in a photo studio. And thankfully the studio owner was a guy who knew me because I'd rented from him enough times that he was kind enough to put it away, but it was easily 8 months before I recovered this camera. So right off the bat, one of the greatest features about this stereo camera isn't so much the stereo nature of the camera, but the fact that it has a flash. I've worked with a bunch of these weird cameras from Goodwills and so forth that didn't have a flash on them, and all of a sudden I found that most of the scenarios that I was shooting in, like being inside a house, an Airbnb, a studio, the camera had next to no use at all for me because I wasn't able to get enough light to get a good shot. That said, I did a lot of my shooting in studios. Experience has taught me when you have a point and shoot camera and you have a really difficult time composing the picture perfectly like you would with an SLR, a DSLR, your mirrorless cameras, that your best bet is to isolate the figure. In these cases, mostly I shot models against a flat colored background. And if you were to think about a background that had a bunch of, say, like tree limbs, it would be very confusing and cluttered. Now that might be the aesthetic you're going for. The final purpose for a lot of these film shots for me is zine format, which kind of lends itself towards chaotic and strange and messed up. But I do want to make good work. I do want to make things that I could post on social media, make prints of, so on and so forth. I don't just want to create a random chaotic mess. So shooting individuals against flat backgrounds really helped. It also helped when they sort of stayed within a tighter frame than they normally would. If you think of a horizontal frame, you could have someone's arms way out one direction or the other. You could have them spread their arms, their legs, do a little dance, so on and so forth. We're talking about half the frame ultimately with the stereo camera, and you're going to get a lot of cut off hands, cut off faces. That might not be what you want. So if you are going to use a stereo camera and you are interested in creating works that can stand on their own, I definitely encourage you to have your subjects keep a little tighter frame within themselves. Don't be so wild with their gesturing. Sometimes I would take the frames and layer them in Photoshop so I could get a little bit of a back and forth GIF. This is kind of cool. I have another camera that I'll be talking about in a future Camera Quest episode that takes 4 frames at once, and I found that's a little more effective for this style of kind of three-dimensionality. Other than that, I find this camera a whole lot of fun. It's really no frills. It only takes regular batteries. Very easy for me to transport, keep in the bottom of my bag, and pull out when I sort of get tired of doing standard digital work. I want to have something that's a little looser and more fun, and I have only gotten positive feedback from the models when I sent these pictures, because honestly, it's one of those strange things that people barely use today, and when you see it, when you come across it in your Instagram feed or online, it really leaps out. And even though the quality of the pictures isn't the sharpest, and it's certainly not the most composed type of imagery, if it stands out, if it gets attention, that's got importance. That has value in itself as well. So highly recommend this particular stereo camera. The older metal one that I couldn't even crank, I'm sure it had aesthetic value, and if I took it to a camera shop and got it all oiled up, I might have been able to get it in working order. But as it is, for what I'm getting out of the camera, the fact that I paid less than $15 for this particular one and have gotten so much out of it, I think speaks to the value that you can get when you find some of these weird cameras in secondhand shops. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.